Hi guys, welcome to this module on Microsoft Project Resources and Resource Allocations. First of all, I'm going to create a resource list. So I'm going down onto these four buttons in the right hand corner. I'm going to click on the resource sheet option and start adding my resources. Now I'm typing the first name. You can type the first and second name of a resource if you wish. You can also use appointments like administrator, trainer, etc., etc. Although that does negate some of the features of Microsoft Project. I'm going to have Microsoft Office as a resource, have computers as a resource, and paper, hotel, and contractors. Same rules apply when you're doing resources as with tasks. Depending on what detail you want to go down to, depends how many and how much resource you list. There are three main types of resource: work, material, and cost. So I'm going to just select material for Microsoft Office. I'm going to pull that down for computers and paper. Hotel I'm going to set to cost and show you how that works later on. Contractors I'm going to leave as work. Now in the material column, if I type an abbreviation for Microsoft Office, MSO, PCs for computers, and PAC for paper, those are the labels that will appear on the Gantt chart when you add that resource to a task. Now, because I'm using names there, I'm going to put the appointments in this group column. So I'm going to say that these guys at the top, these first two, are trainers. So trainer, and then Bill can be an admin person, and then Ben can be the manager. Now, this allows you to filter when you create reports. So I could do a filter on trainers, or admin, manager, etc. If they're set to 100%, they're available all the time, 50%, 50% of the time, and so on and so on. You don't get that option when you set a resource to material. I'm going to give each of these four people the same rate of pay and overtime rate, £10 an hour and £15, highlighting that, bringing those down. And I'm also going to say every time I allocate Microsoft Office to a task, it's going to cost me £100. PCs though, I'm going to put that as a fixed cost of £500. That was always going to be £500 no matter how many times or how many PCs I add. Paper, £1 an hour. Now the cost resource type doesn't give you the option to put a figure in this box. When you add the cost field to a task, that's where you add the amount. So you wouldn't necessarily know what hotel cost was until you actually booked the hotel cost in. Contractors, I'm going to put at £10 an hour. They are contractors, so they don't get overtime. So next column across after cost per use is accrue. So this can be prorated or at the start or at the end of a project. It's default at prorated. I'm going to leave it as that. Then you've got your calendars. You've got your three basic calendars, and obviously you can create your own calendar if you need to. And a column for cost codes if you use cost codes, and options there to add additional information or additional columns. And once you've got your task list typed out, you can then go to your Gantt chart and start allocating resources to tasks. So I've clicked on the resource tab, assign resources, and there's my resources. It's not the only way to do it, but I like this box because this box floats on the screen. I can click down these tasks, the task name appears at the top, and then I can allocate resources. So on this first task, install software room 1, I want to assign Anne and Ben, 2 people, and 2 computers, assign. Now that should stay at 500 because I said that is a fixed cost, so yes it does. 2 licenses, assign Microsoft Office, this will change. 2 licenses should go to £200, and paper, assign, and I want that to be, let's say they use 2 packs of paper per hour, so that's how you factor that in, 2 per hour. That goes up to 16, so that's okay for that. Now all the costs, as you can see, are listed in this box, but what I can't see is a sort of overarching cost, so I'm going to change this table view to the cost table, and then that will give me the overarching cost So 876 is what this is costing me so far. Test software room 1, I'm going to allocate Bill. He gets 1 computer, gets 1 license, and he uses a pack of paper per hour, so 1 per hour on there, and that's cost me 688. Next one down, training, I'm going to give that to the contractors, assign, and they don't need Microsoft Office, but they do need a hotel, so this is where you put the cost of that hotel in there. So let's say that was £250 for that hotel, and that's the contractors. And that is the process you go through to assign your resources. If you find that you've got something listed that you don't assign, you probably didn't need to have it listed in the first place, and you can just go back to your resource sheet and delete it. So far this project, I'll just close that, is costing $18.94. Now if I go back to the resource sheet and double click on Anne, for example, and I will look at the resource in more detail. So when the resource information box comes up, when you double click, this is about Anne. You've got her availability at the bottom there. If I change that and say, for example, she's not available until the 27th, but thereafter she's available, if I click away from that and click OK, because I've got Anne allocated already, she's flagging in red, which is not good, so I'll just go back in there, take that off, put it back to NA, which means she's available from then on. But that's what that's for. Now on the right side you've got her calendar, so this works in the same way as a project calendar, so exceptions would be listed here, work weeks. If this changed, so if, for example, if I go into this and say on Fridays she only works till 8 o'clock, she starts at 8 till 12, starts at 8, finishes at 12. If I click OK to that, click on any Friday, that will say there what the hours are. There's the normal hours. I'll go, she's actually gone red there, so I'm just going to go back and take that off. So click on Friday, use the default settings, click OK, back to default, and then OK. Next, across the top you've got costs, so this is used for where you've got increments depending on where or when you're working. So for example, there is the default, £10 an hour and £15. Let's say that Anne goes to a foreign country, and while she's in that foreign country she gets £12 an hour and £17 an hour overtime. When she comes back, a week after maybe, she goes back down to a basic of 10 and 15. And this can also be used for bulk buys. You may buy a pack of paper at £1 per pack, but if you buy 100 packs it's only a penny a pack and things like that. You can use these cost code tables for that. You've got quite a few there. The default one is A, and in each of these tables you've got quite a few rows. Next at the top you've got a notes tab, similar to tasks. You add a notes option there. I'm just going to give it a title, job spec, and then as we did before, you click on the little insert object and you can insert a document. I'm just going to insert a new blank Excel worksheet just for demonstration purposes. Click on the display's icon so it will look like that. Click OK. Because I've created a new one, this will actually sit in Microsoft Project. There it is. It actually says there worksheet in software implementation. I don't even need to save that really, it'll stay there. I could save it if I wanted to, but I don't need to because it will be saved within project. Next tab across you've got custom fields, so if we add any fields or create any custom fields, they would be listed in this box. We haven't done that, so there aren't any. I'll just click OK to that, and then that information is displayed there. The reason I did a title job spec is so you can see there's something there and what it is, because otherwise you just see the apostrophe that's at the bottom there, which doesn't really tell you anything, and you'd have to double click into it to find out what was there. Now, next little bit, I want to come back onto the Gantt chart and talk quickly about task types. So I'm just going to create 4 tasks: task A, task B, task C, and task D. And I'm going to put this table back to the entry tables. Don't need to look at the costs anymore. So we've got the information column. Now each of these tasks are going to be 1 day in duration. Now, the default task type is fixed unit, but there are two other types which I want to show you now. If I just double click into task A, you can see that. So there you've got fixed units, fixed duration, fixed work, fixed units. Now next to fixed units you have this effort driven tick box, which is not ticked by default in this version of project, but in some older versions that is ticked, and you can also change that in options as well. And I just want to show you what happens when this box is ticked. So first off, I'll leave it unticked, so this is the default option. So I'm going to add an, assign in an, nothing happens. That was my first allocation. Don't worry about it going red, that's just because she's on these tasks further above. I assign Ben, nothing happens to that duration, so it stays the same. They're both doing 8 hours and both getting paid £80 each. Now if I remove both of those, so I remove those, double click back onto the task, go into the advanced tab and tick effort driven, so it's still fixed unit but I'm going to tick effort driven, clicking OK to that. Now watch what happens. So I'll assign Anne. Nothing happens on the first one because that's my initial assignment, but when I assign Ben or anybody else, what happens, it will start driving the duration down. So there you go, assigned Ben, it started driving the duration down. So they're now just doing 4 hours each on this task, and that's what that effort driven tick will do. Now sometimes you don't want the duration to change no matter how many people you put on the task. So if I do task B and change it to the next one, which is fixed duration, again you've got the tick on or off. I'll leave the tick off to start with and click OK, and I will assign Anne. Nothing happens. The duration is fixed at 1 day. Ben, nothing happens. They both get full pay. They're both doing 8 hours work. Now if I do something similar in task C, but this time fixed duration, put the tick on, tick is on, the duration can't change, so what does change? If I click OK to that, and then I do the same thing again, assign Anne, nothing happens, but now the tick is going to do something. So if I assign Ben, what it does is doesn't touch the duration, it's still 1 day, it drives down the hours, so in this case they're both doing 4 hours each. So that tick on a fixed duration task, the effort driven tick, will drive down the hours. Now the last one, task D, is what's called a fixed work task. Before I do that one, I just need to insert the work column. So insert column, type W to get to the W's at work. And then I want an example here of 10 hours work that I'm paying for over a 10-day period. So first off, into task D, I changed it to fixed work. Now when I do that, notice that you do not have the option of taking the tick on or off, or put it on or off, but it is on. So in terms of project, it will try and drive the duration down when you add extra resources. So let's see what happens. So if I add, let's do the criteria first. So 10 hours over a 10-day period. So if I add Anne, nothing will happen. So if I added Anne, Bill and Ben, nothing would happen either. If I added them all together, it's only when you add them individually that things start changing. But if I add another resource, it will start driving the duration down. The hours stays the same, but now the duration's changed. If I wanted that back at 10 days, I put it back at 10 days. But if I was going to do that initially, what I perhaps should have done is just highlighted 2 people or 3 people and assigned them as my initial allocation. It's something that takes a little bit of time to get used to, and creating these tasks like I've done there, A, B, C, D, and doing what we've just done in this example is a very, very good way of getting your head around how it all should work. And now that is the end of this module. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for your time.